there are a few skills that you learn. Maybe you learned it in Algebra 1. I hope you learned it in Algebra 1. I teach it in Algebra 1. Completing the square. And so this is, we're going to be completing the square today. That's the skill we're doing today. And it's incredibly useful. We use it all the time, excuse me, in Algebra 2 and Pre-Calc Trig, and we have to know in Calculus too. But it's one of those algebra techniques that is really important to learn how to manipulate the math. And that's what we're doing here. So I have a little, these are algebra tiles. Have you seen these before? Yeah. Good. Yeah, so I have, no, these are not the same. This is 1x squared. You can see that it's a square. That's things that are square or squares. Okay. That's where the name comes from. James, you're going to take your head off. Thank you. All right. And then we have 4 x's. So each of these green things represents an x. All right. And what we're going to do is actually figure out what we need to add, what number we need to add to this little miniature expression here to complete the square. So we are rearranging these little terms here, and you'll notice I can rearrange them in such a way that I create a little space, and what I want to do is figure out, hey, how many little units go in here to quite literally complete the square? So how many of these little units do I have to get in here? 4 of them. And that is how we literally complete the square. So when I was in high school, and I learned how to complete the square, we didn't have a little model for it. Like, we didn't see it this way. So completing the square, I was like, I wonder why it's called completing the square. Well, it is literally completing the square of these things, so making it into a square. Okay, so which I thought was so cool when I saw it the first time. So what about x squared plus 8x? So how many units do I need to add to complete this square with x squared plus 8x's? 16, yeah. So we can see when we rearrange these that we would have space for 4 across and then 4 down, so we'd have 16. So now my question is, can we look at this number and just instantly know that we'd have to get 16? How do we figure that out?
Gear squares.
What did you say?
Gear squares.
Okay, but if I just know that I have these 8x's, what did I have to do with these 8x's? Yeah, we had to split them, right? So I put 4 on top and I moved 4 onto the side, like that. So we had to sort of split them up. So we split the 8 into 2 parts. So I got 4 over here and 4 over here. And then what do we do to get all the 16 pieces? 4 times 4. So we square that number. All right, so if I just had these things, do I care about the x squared or do I care about the 8x? We care about the 8x. And so that's the thing that we want to pay attention to. But yeah, we're going to divide it by 2 and then square it. And that is how we complete the square. So in your notes, we just finished standard form for a circle. And we are down here, and we're going to look at general form. All right, so this is general form. General form looks kind of crazy, but general form for the equation of a circle is ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equal to 0. I know, well, it's totally crazy. Ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e. You'll notice yesterday's everything we had nice little quantity squared. We had grouping symbols. We had this constant on the outside. And today we don't have any of those parentheses and squares. And that's because they've all been multiplied out. We've double bubbled and foiled these things together, and we've combined like terms, and without any grouping symbols or squares, this is what we would get, something like this, set equal to 0. Well, what we want to be able to do is when we're given it this general form, standard form is so much better for us. To be able to graph it, know what it looks like, it's so much better. And so we're going to start today in this form, and our job is to complete the square to get it back into a standard form, okay, so that we can identify the center and the radius, and then we'll be able to graph. So it's heavily algebra, but it's kind of a fun process once you get the hang of it. So we're going to turn the page because I don't like her steps. So this is 10.7, day 2, the last day. You have a test on Thursday, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to use a couple of colors. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to take this constant term and we're going to move it to the right-hand side. And I'm going to rearrange a little bit. So step number 1 here, we're going to group G-R-O-U-P and add some blank spaces. And move that constant away. So what I have here is I have an x squared and I have a 14x. I want to put those together next to each other, really. So x squared plus 14x, and I'm going to add a blank space because I need to complete the square. Just like we did with the tiles, I need to add a number that's going to make it something really, really nice. And then I have the things with y. So I have the y squared and the negative 4y. So I'm going to put those next. I have a y squared and a negative 4y. And I'm going to add a blank space. And then I also want to move this constant to the right-hand side. If I'm going to move it to the right-hand side, how do I do that? Can I just put it over there, or do I have to do something different? I have to subtract it. So that's going to equal negative 17. So I moved that 17 to the right. But if I add something on the left-hand side, am I allowed to do that? Can I just add something to one side of the scale? No, I have to add it to both sides of the scale. So I have to make sure that I add each blank to both sides of the equation so my equation stays balanced, okay? All right, so we have done some rearranging, we've done some grouping, and we've added blank spaces. Now, we're going to find, I just put C, which is this number we're going to fill in. Well, what did we have to do with our tiles with this x term? Divide it by 2, all right? So the C is we take whatever that number in front of the x, I'm just going to call it a b, and we're going to divide it by 2, and then we have to square it, and that's the C, and that's going to give us our term that we're going to add. Yeah, in this case, so I'm just going to do 14 divided by 2 squared, so I'm just going to write it in the first time, so that we can see how we get it. So definitely write this in your notes. And then 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. So I'm adding 49 in that blank space and 49 in this blank space. Okie dokie. Oh, I copied this wrong. That was supposed to be y squared. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. That should have just been that y squared. All right. So same thing for this pink blank space. I want to take that number in front of the y, so negative 4, and I'm going to divide that by 2, and I'm going to square it. So what is negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2. And negative 2 quantity squared is? Positive 4. Remember, this would be negative 2 times negative 2, which would give us a positive 4. So I'm adding 4 on the left, and I'm adding 4 on the right. Now that's fantastic because you just completed the square. And I'm just I want to clean this up maybe. X squared plus 14x plus 49. And then in pink I have y squared minus 4y plus 4 equals, now on the right hand side, all these are just numbers, so I can combine them. Negative 17 plus 49 plus 4, and that turns into be 36. Okay. All right, well, that's fantastic. The whole reason to complete the square is to be able to factor your trinomial. So what we've created is I have a trinomial here in blue. That's a beautiful, easy thing to double bubble. So that's what we're going to do. This is a step you can skip, but I always do it in notes because I want you to understand how we got there, all right? What times what is x squared? X times x. And last times last has to be positive 49. What times what is positive 49? 7 times 7. Yeah, 7 times 7, which also gets us to 14. So we get positive 7 and positive 7. That was easy to double bubble, right? So now I also want to look at the pink trinomial here. And again, that is going to double bubble super nice. All right, let's see. Y times y is y squared. What times what gives me a positive 4? Negative 2 times negative 2. Why did I choose the negatives? Yeah, that's how we get that negative 4. So negative 2 times negative 2. Are you good so far? Okay. And then you'll notice the very last step is to condense. And by condense, I mean, let's make it as compact as possible. So instead of writing x plus 7 times x plus 7, that is the same x plus 7 quantity squared. And then instead of writing y minus 2 times y minus 2, what is that? Y minus 2 quantity squared equals 36. And ladies and gentlemen, you just rewrote that general form into standard form, which is what we did yesterday. What is the center of your circle here? Negative 7, positive 2, and what is your radius? Well, that's r squared. Yeah, so remember r squared would be 6 squared, so the radius is 6. This is what you're doing today in Delta Math. And so that's what we're going to do for all of the, well, not all of them. We're going to do a couple more here just to make sure that we get this process down. So let's look at number 14. Once again, I'm going to take my little constant term and we're going to move him to the right-hand side. And then next, and we want to group and add some blank spaces. So I have x squared plus 4x plus a blank. And I'm going to add that same blank on the right-hand side. And then I have my y thingies. So I have a positive y squared and a positive 8y, and I'm going to add a blank. And if I add it to the left, I also need to add it to the right. What happened to my negative 55? Why did it change signs? I had to move it to the opposite side, so you have to make it opposite. All right. What do we do next? Fill in the blank. Yeah. So we're going to do 4 divided by 2 and squared, which is 4. We're adding it to both blanks. And now in pink, what do we add? 8 divided by 2 squared. What is 8 divided by 2? 16. 4. And then squared is 16. Beautiful. From there, we're going to factor, double bubble. I could clean it up if I wanted to, but I think we can skip that step. X times x is x squared. This is really a 4. What times what gives you 4? 2. 2 and 2. Again, you could maybe write that that's really a 4. So 2 times 2 is 4. All right. In pink here, this is really a 16. So we want to double bubble. Y times y is y squared. What times what is positive 16? Yeah. Positive 4 and positive 4 gets you that 8 in the middle. And when we combine all these constants, we get 75. 75, yeah. And then all we have to do is condense, and we're done. So x plus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 4 quantity squared equals 75. So there is our beautiful standard form. What is our center?
-2, -4.
-2, -4, and the radius? Ooh. Yeah, we absolutely could just say the square root of 75. Yeah, remember that's r squared. And so if we want to figure it out, we would just take a square root. All right, how are you feeling about this? Are you feeling okay? All right, let's do one more. Do you want to do 15 or 16? 16? Okay. And again, we're just going to find the radius because that's all we're doing today. All right, so what's different about 16? It's not equal to 0, slightly different form, but the same thing still applies. Well, I would want it away anyway, so I'm going to keep that 62 here because that's fine. But I do need this. Yeah, I need this thing back on this side of my equal sign with the x. So let's see, I have an x squared and I have this 18x that I need to relocate. So yeah, x squared, I have to subtract that 18. So we're going to do minus 18x plus a blank equals negative 62 plus a blank. So I'm working both sides of my equation there. And then I have my things with the y's. So I have my positive y squared and my negative 2y. Add a blank and add a blank to both sides. All right, fill in the blank space. What do we have to do? Divide by 2 and square it. So negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. Positive 81 is what that becomes. Yeah. So I just kept it on the right-hand side because that's where I wanted it anyway. Yeah, so I just left that one there, but I did have to subtract the 18x because that needs to be with on the other side of the equals. Yeah. All right, over here we have negative 2 divided by 2 and squared. What is negative 2 divided by 2? Negative 1 squared. Positive 1. Very good. All right, so that really is just a positive 1. And let's double bubble. So x times x is x squared. What times what gets me positive 81? Negative 9 and negative 9. So you'll notice it's just this right here. The negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. That actually tells you what those values should be every single time. And that's going to consolidate really nice as x minus 9 quantity squared. In pink, I have y times y is y squared. And what times what gives me positive 1? Negative 1 times negative 1. And again, negative 2 divided by 2 is the negative 1. So you actually are finding C and writing it down actually tells you what that number needs to be, okay? So it does the work for you. So we have y minus 1 quantity squared, and equals, all of this right-hand side together makes 20. Because negative 62 plus 82 is 20. All right, there's our wonderful standard form. What is our center?
9, 1.
Positive 9, positive 1. And the radius? Radius is? Square root of 20. Just for giggles here, just to remind you, 20 is 4 times 5. And if you wanted to simplify that radical, the square root of 4 is 2 radical 5. Very good. Just to remind you, what about 75? 75 is 25 times 5. So the square root of 25 is 5. Radical 5 stays under the radical. Okay, so just as a reminder, but there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you're doing today, and exactly the right time. Should have just released?
Yep.
So, pretty good. What? Oh, 25 times 3. Thank you. You're right. 25 times 3. Just kidding. So that should be 5 radical 3. Thank you, thank you. All right. All right, you're going to need to show your work.